Now, when I look at how these two decks line up against each other, it's kind of interesting because what we have is a deck that is got 4 Huntmasters, 4 Olivia Voldarens. It's really prepared to essentially have these very powerful creatures come into play that will both drag out the game and perhaps take it over. And the weak card for Corey Burkhart Game 1 is the Rakdos' Return. Great card in the metagame, but against Black-Green Zombies, Rakdos Return, not the most exciting card you want to see unless your opponent gets really unlucky.
Yes. Not only is the deck relatively fast, the green-black zombie deck has tons of value plays out of the graveyard. So Rakdos Return could even set up a scavenge on a Dreg Mangler, allow a graveyard, discard a Grave Crawler and just get it right back. So definitely his softest card.
Now, after this round, remember, we still have one more round that we're going to be broadcasting. We're bringing you the quarterfinals of the Standard Open, one of 5 large tournaments this weekend for the Star City Game Open Series weekends when it features the Invitational. Opening, we have Andrew Tran, turn 1 with Diregraph Ghoul, turn 2 for Corey Burkhart. Burkhart is land go.
Overgrown Tomb and Steam Vents, so displaying his Nephilim allegiance early on. Mana relatively fixed.
Down with white. E.
A Woodland
FG.
Cemetery.
Okay,
And
we've
a
got
troll.
Lolteth. How do you say that? Lolteth?
Lotleth Troll.
Lotleth. Yeah, I always just like lolling.
But I don't really know the vernacular that well, so.
2 zombies in play, 4 power. More at a moment's notice. A Dreg Mangler could come out and make it 7 power coming in. He could go very, very deep in and make the Lotleth Troll huge. Let's see what he does.
Yeah, it's very important for Tran here to have one of his power 3-drops. Either Dreg Mangler or Geralt's Messenger. Instead, we're going to see a Blood Artist.
Blood Artist, certainly not a power drop, but it has utility.
So we'll see. I don't think Corey has no instance in his deck, so.
Well, he does have Flash, though. Staticaster.
Oh, sure.
No play there. Huntmaster, perhaps? Nope, it's going to be Liliana. Not Liliana, pardon me. Olivia. Olivia's Liliana's friend.
So that is a card that, against attacking decks, can very easily take over the game just by itself. Not much help needed, so we'll see if Tran has an answer.
Our director, Mr. Shoebox himself, is telling us that this is indeed a win-and-in match for these players.
So Tran sends both of Diregraph Ghoul and Lotleth Troll in, signaling access to Tragic Slip. See if Corey is willing to trade his Olivia. His hand has at least 1 Thragtusk, so I would be surprised if he valued this Olivia too highly, since his mana can be spent doing other things. But he might try to lean on this. Alright, he's going to block the Diregraph Ghoul, and I like this block. The Tragic Slip. So there's going to be a trade here.
Now, for a lot of decks, losing your Olivia Voldaren would be a huge tragedy, but for Corey Burkhart, he has 4 Olivia Voldaren in his deck. It's not that you want to throw a card like that away, but he did go 2 for 1 there, losing a Diregraph Ghoul and a Tragic Slip for Andrew Tran, and he could just have another Olivia Voldaren waiting in his hand.
I believe he has 3 copies of Thragtusk, if I'm seeing this correctly, in his hand. At least 2. So Thragtusk certainly among the better anti-zombies cards, anti-creature cards you can be playing. Getting Corey up to a much more healthy 15 life. Another Geralt's Messenger off the top for Tran.
Lotleth Troll comes on in, daring Thragtusk to block.
The cavern that Corey played was set on humans. Corey deep in the tank on this block. Be surprised if he was willing to trade the Thragtusk for 1 card out of a mana-tight Andrew Tran's hand.
I mean, if he does block it, he can tie up one of the green mana, eats a card, or one of the black mana, I mean, eats a card, and then can he follow up?
Yeah, he needs to make another play here, really, to justify that turn.
I don't see a follow-up card in his deck that actually manages to do what he needs to do there. And remember that unless it was forgotten that Blood Artist is chipped away, yep, there it is, the one life sucked away by the Blood Artist.
And Corey is setting up a situation here where he can actually, this turn he can actually play Olivia and shoot the Blood Artist if he was feeling so inclined, or just play another Thragtusk. So he's quickly overpowering Andrew Tran, who's tight on mana and tight on action, which is a bad place to be.
And we see just a sick hand here from Corey Burkhart.
There's another Cavern.
And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Thragtusk.
Sure.
It could be that Corey is trying to turn the tides and establish a situation where he's the aggressor. But in so doing, I mean, if he's going to gain that 5 life anyway, or 4 life really with the Blood Artist, he could have a 5/3 and a 5/3 in play. I don't know. It's hard to say.
I think I would have preferred to play Olivia and shoot that turn, because if Corey is, I mean, this makes it much better for Corey now that there's a second Blood Artist for him to shoot. But if Andrew was feeling so inclined, he could just hold the Troll back on defense, and now neither Thragtusk nor the token can attack.
Yeah.
Whereas Olivia would be able to fly over whatever defenses Tran had that turn.
Land to play tapped Blood Crypt.
And you're seeing this now that he has the Troll back on D. But this turn is still going to be just devastating for Tran.
I mean, right now, Andrew Tran absolutely needs to somehow find a way to kill that Olivia, or it will take the game over in the next turn, 2 turns.
Corey just saying go, leaving up his 2 mana.
A Tragic Slip would do this, because it seems very likely that Corey will shoot something. Though, to be fair, he could shoot the Troll. And go for the stealing ability, the vampire stealing ability of Olivia's, to protect himself from a Tragic Slip doing any kind of removal on that Olivia.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're better off just picking off the Blood Artist for the time being, because it's the only thing that, if you're in Corey's position, it's really the only thing that can make you nervous, right? Like, how does something bad go this game? It probably has to involve those Blood Artists both triggering and there being some sort of sweeper effect or what have you.
Diregraph Ghoul joins the forces on Andrew Tran's side.
So I'm curious to see what Corey's going to do here. If I was in his position, I would just try to take down some of these Blood Artists. All right, and there's a Killing Wave.
Ouch! Double Blood Artist Killing Wave. Yikes.
This has got to merit a response, right? So not quite sure what is being resolved here.
I think we might have a response. Okay, there's a Tragic Slip. Killing Wave 1, Tragic Slip. What's the Tragic Slip targeting?
I assume the Olivia?
Yeah.
And the Olivia didn't succeed in taking the game over, but certainly that's just another bad exchange for Tran. And now Corey, still with his remaining Thragtusk, in a position to start sending in.
And Andrew Tran totally tapped out of black here. That Troll is vulnerable at this moment. Just takes it. Takes 8. Here we see 5 big mana.
Sure.
Thragtusk.
Another Thragtusk. Tran sort of giving a frustrated, like, yeah, sure, why not? Why not a third one? That's fine. Drawless Messenger, but that's going to be too little too late, I suspect. Corey in firm control of this game. The Troll on defense is a little bit of an annoyance. That's really the only thing that Tran has going for him at this point. And of course, Corey's deck, at this stage of the game, his average draw is significantly more powerful than those out of Tran's deck.
I mean, at this point, what's Andrew Tran going to do to make a game change happen?
I mean, not much. It's
I mean, he's
running Sign in Bloods, I guess.
I think he has to grind out Corey, which is going to require Corey to fail to draw any relevant cards for several turns, and for Andrew just to draw threat after threat after threat all in a row.
Yeah. Very hard to outgrind the Thratos deck. And a Deathrite Shaman.
Yikes. Deathrite Shaman really helps make those Drawless Messengers much less frightening.
Looks like Tran has actually just drawn a Sign in Blood, but his life total is already pretty precarious, so.
1, 2, 3. Drawless Messenger. And the Deathrite Shaman is no longer sick. Well, I mean, it's going to always be sick.
Yes. It is no longer fatigued.
Yeah, there we go.
I think we've just drawn a Peddler here. Oh, this is...
Tracker's Instinct.
Tracker's Instinct, sure.
Staticaster. I'll take that.
I assume we want to Staticaster his Blood Arts before we move into combat here.
Seems not bad.
Just trying to make sure nothing goes awry inside of combat.
We see the 3 mana, Cavern on Human, 2 other mana.
The Staticaster now moving to shoot down the Blood Artist.
And one last little drain for 1 before it perishes.
Now Corey still needs to be a little bit careful here because Troll regenerating, Corey's swing back can be very good here if, Andrew's swing back can be rather good here if Corey overextends himself.
I mean, he's got 9 power in play currently.
Yeah, he's just going to send it back, and I like this I like this play out of Corey. The instinct for a lot of players, I think, would have just been to keep attacking there. Now that you have Deathrite Shaman, you have a lot of control over the way the game's going to play out. So there's no reason to get overly aggressive by, pushing all your creatures in, and then Messenger gets to trade with something and come back. Troll gets to eat something and regenerate. It's not a very good combat, so...
Yeah. Deathrite Shaman is a really excellent card to learn pacing with. There are times where you want to slow the game down, so you'll gain life. There are times when you want to speed it up, so you'll end up doing damage. And the decisions between those 2 plays, it's a good way to train yourself, is to keep making those decisions game after game after game. Sign in Blood.
Tran falling to 7 now.
Corey Burkhart, hidden behind a fortress of beasts. Diregraph Ghoul drops onto the table. And let's see what he wants to do. Is it going to be to go for the kill?
Yeah, I assume we're trying to close this game out.
There we go. Killing Wave gets out of here. Andrew Tran falls 2 more life.
Corey empty-handed, but certainly has a lot going on the board.
Just the card he drew just now. What is it? Oh, Tracker's Instinct from the graveyard. Whiff, whiff, Staticaster, Staticaster.
So I believe that we can Staticaster these 2 messengers and then just come across for lethal.
That looks correct. Without any tricks, that would be a kill. The question is, of course, is there some remarkable series of tricks in Andrew Tran's hand? I think he would need 2 tragic slips for it to not be a problem.
Yep.
Poke all of the messengers, and Andrew's like, I got nothing.
Yeah, Corey only, because Corey still has Deathrite Shaman up,
Yep.
he only needs to connect with 1 beast.
Yeah.
So Andrew would basically need 2 tricks in his hand to be able to survive that attack.
Yep.
So
that's what I was talking about. And even if he does survive, pretending he has 2 tragic slips, because it would have to be tragic slip number, I believe, 2 and 3 of 3 for Andrew Tran. Even if he has that, he's not going to be in a very good position for the swing back either.
Yeah. So very safe attack there by Corey. Took his time and waited until the coast was absolutely clear.
Yeah. Now, what did we see happen here? Corey Burkhart buying an immense amount of time on the backs of Thragtusks and a first Olivia just to essentially eat up some of Andrew Tran's valuable resources. And then after that, taking over with the Staticasters through the use of his Tracker's Instincts.
Yeah.
Now, Andrew Tran, though, very, very mana hungry and struggling through a major portion of that mid game.
Yeah, I mean, his deck is, the Troll is in a lot of ways a 3-mana play because you want to have it up with regeneration mana, plus Mangler and Messenger. And then you have things like Sign in Blood, very mana hungry. If you want to be efficient with your Grave Crawlers, that's another tax on your mana. And so for a beatdown deck, this has a need for a lot of mana to function correctly.
I think we're going to see from Corey Burkhart 4 Pillar of Flame as a extra answer to the very, very scary Geralf's Messenger when there's an aggressive draw. And I think it's possible that he'd bring in Snapcaster Mage, but I don't think that's necessarily the way he'll go. Definitely the 4 Pillars, and maybe the Snapcasters, but I'm not 100% sure of that, but definitely 4 Pillars.
Yeah, and on the other side of the table, Andrew Tran has an excellent card here in 3 copies of Appetite for Brains. Almost all the powerful stuff that Corey is doing is 4+ mana creatures.
Yep, Huntmaster, Olivia, Thragtusk.
All excellent, just perfect targets for that card. He has 2 copies of Vampire Nighthawk. Flyers are generally very nice against this style of deck as they're very good at locking up the ground, particularly with Thragtusk. So having a flying creature can be very valuable there. He has 4 Deathrite Shamans, which are probably for matchups that are a little more graveyard oriented than this one. 3 copies of Golgari Charm, not a ton to do there. Regeneration can be good against a potential Bonfire, but probably not a card you want to touch.
There is one strange thing that you can do with it, is that you can use it if you recognize that you're playing against a Nightshade Peddler deck to -1/-1 everybody and get rid of Peddlers.
Yes.
But that is pretty corner.
And he already has 3 copies of Tragic Slip, and so Peddler's probably not the card he's most concerned about here. 2 copies of Liliana the Veil, although, again, Liliana actually might be reasonable here because of the presence of Staticaster. He's going to have to give, and Deathrite Shaman, he actually has small creatures he's committing to the board relatively early, and then Liliana can be good in that sort of game.
Now, what are the bad cards that we're looking at? Bad being just kind of a relative term here. Rakdos Return, I think, is Corey Burkhart's weak link in this matchup game 1. He is not really fighting a card advantage war, he's fighting a board war.
Yes. Rakdos Return much better suited towards the band, the Sphinx's Revelation decks, in essence. Kind of out of place here. On the other side of the table, I think now that Andrew is aware of Izzet Staticaster, he's going to want to de-emphasize some of his one-toughness creatures. So I would expect cards like Bloodthrown Vampire and Blood Artist to go to the sideboard.
It's so dangerous having your one toughness things out when you're dealing with a dedicated Staticaster deck.
Well, I mean, anytime I'm playing any sort of beatdown deck, I am very apprehensive anytime my opponent shows some sort of repeat pinging effect about leaving in any sort of one-toughness creatures. The way that beatdown decks most effectively beat control decks is by trying to blank elements of their deck. The more that you play your threats into their reactive elements, it's very challenging to win. So you have to find some angle, some card in their deck that you're trying to mitigate or turn into a bad draw. And certainly Andrew can't afford to be playing into Izzet Staticaster. He's got to try to blank that card. So you could bring in your Appetites, your Vampire Nighthawks, your 2 copies of Liliana and maybe a Deathrite Shaman and get all of your one-time creatures out of the deck besides Gravecrawler, and Gravecrawler's fine against Staticaster.
Yeah, I mean, you just get to bring them back, and if that costs you a mana later in the game, I mean, it can distract a Staticaster from shooting something else. But just that simple fact of you put the Gravecrawler down, it's a 2-power thing. Later in the game, it dies, and if you deal with the Staticaster, then on, say, turn 6, being able to return to the Gravecrawler plan after you've dealt with the Staticaster.
Yeah, that's a totally fine sequence. And Lot Troll also one-time-ness, but multiple ways of fighting Staticaster, of
it's
course.
kind of a fake one toughness.
Yes. So, I think it appears both players are taking a mulligan here.
If you're just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan here with Patrick Sullivan. We are here in the final round of the Swiss portion of the Star City Games Open here in Los Angeles. Day 2 of the Invitational itself is in the books. Tomorrow we're going to be bringing you the top 8 of the Invitational, but tonight we've still got more Magic. The Open Series here, the Standard Open. We've got these 2 players fighting for a chance to be in the top 8 of the Standard Open. One of these players will move on, and we'll show the quarterfinal matches to see who amongst the many of these almost 500 players are in our top 8. Cut to our quarterfinal or semifinals tomorrow morning.
And Corey and Andrew coming in the round were in 8th and 7th place respectively, so barring some sort of bizarre disaster, the winner here is moving on to the elimination rounds.
Corey Burkhart up a game here with the 4-color Staticaster Nightshade Peddler combo.
Don't be deceived by that RIW's hoodie that Corey has on. He's not actually from the Detroit area. He's just very tight with that group of guys. California area gamer.
I was actually going to bring up whether he was a Detroit area player.
No, just tight with that crew.
Gotcha. I will be heading to Detroit on Monday for a little while. Get myself a Coney.
Very nice. So Andrew's going to lead off the action with a turn 1 Appetite for Brains, which is going to tag an Olivia and show a hand of Snapcaster Mage, Peddler, and 3 lands.
So this is that question we had before. Would the Snapcasters come in? And what's the value of them? Snapcaster Pillar of Flame is a nice little combo against aggressive decks.
Yes. I would imagine it is there to be paired with Pillar.
We have our first land from Corey Burkhart. And Andrew Tran with an unexciting turn 2 land go.
Is it Staticaster and Olivia were the first 2 draws for Corey here, although he is lacking red mana. So he might actually get to pair up this Peddler with a Staticaster.
Peddler sitting out there. Andrew Tran thinks for a while. It's like, well, okay, Dreg.
All right, that's a Vampire Nighthawk.
Nighthawk. Well, if a red source comes,
it's a red mana. It's a
boom!
Oh,
that's how you do it.
Those were some good draws for Corey. And now,
best friends forever.
Yeah, they are holding hands, walking together to the ice cream parlor, mowing down every creature Andrew plays for the remainder of the game.
Staticaster.
So yeah, now Andrew can't actually function until he gets one of these 2 cards off the table.
You know, I'm not exactly sure what it is that Is It Staticaster is shooting, but...
Lingering Souls tokens. they're off screen, but that's what they're shooting.
Just looking at the art of the Is It Staticaster, just kind of one of those things where you're like, are you a Ghostbuster? What do you got going on there? I don't really know.
There's a Diagraph Ghoul, and he has a...
Ultimate Price.
So he's out of the lock, but that Staticaster is still a 0/3, so he's got the Diagraph Ghoul on check. And we know that Corey's also drawn Olivia as well, so...
Olivia and Staticaster work really well together, even if you don't get the Nightshade going. I mean, okay, Huntmaster, putting up the wall, Fortress time.
Yep. Corey just wants to deploy the Olivia as his last threat, A, to have as much mana up as possible when it enters play, and secondly, to try to bleed out whatever removal Andrew has, so the Olivia can be the last thing. And Andrew doesn't even have a play to make, so this Huntmaster's going to flip.
Boom.
And Corey in firm control is an understatement.
Yep. In for 6. Andrew Tran. I'm not sure what miraculous play he's going to need to come back from this.
And his draw is afterward, and there's an Olivia.
If he gets an Insurrection and a couple other creatures, he might get there.
Yeah, Necropotence would be a good start.
Yeah.
We need something big.
Spring forth my burly protector and save me. Tavern go.
Corey's deck with multiple ways to permanently lock out every creature for the remainder of the game against a deck that plays a bunch of creatures.
Yep. And it's not like this deck that Andrew's playing has very much in the way of removal. It has a couple of cards that are creature kill. And Andrew Tran hands out 25 minutes down, and he's dead.
Yep. A very impressive win there for Corey Burkhart. Some pretty awesome draws after that Appetite for Brains.
Yeah.
He found Olivia, then Staticaster, then Red Mana to tie the room together, and that was just that.
Well, it really did what it needed to do.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I really like the non-cheaty Peddler Staticaster build. It's like, nope. I got my 4 lures and my 4 Thicket Basilisks, and I'm going to draw 1 of each of them. I'm going to put my lure on my Basilisk, and that's going to be it. A simpler style of deck construction that I definitely appreciate.
That's right.